Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Today's video, Dungeons and Dragons, how I got my start, and some beginner tips. Let's get into it. Good evening. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you've had a good week so far. So, I just wanted to talk a little bit tonight about Dungeons and Dragons. And if you are interested how you can get your start, how I got my start, and just some quick tips and just advice, my current experience. So, part one, how I got my start and my current experience, my first experience with the game. So, a friend of mine at work, he is a dungeon master, meaning he sort of oversees the game, sets the rules. There are general rules to follow, but he can sort of tweak things if he wants to because it is his game that he's hosting. So that's really what leads into my first point is you want to find a dungeon master. I was lucky enough and one of my friends was already a DM, so I didn't really, I didn't have to put in that effort. He was the one that kept reaching out to me like, "Hey, it's really fun. You got to join." He kept telling me about, fun stuff that was happening with them. And I was just like, in the back of our mind, man, this sounds really fun, but I don't know, awkward with new people, blah, blah, blah. But I eventually did join and it was awesome, so that's really the initial thing is that, like, don't be worried about it. It's going to be so much fun. I mean, luckily I already had a little bit of experience with D&D just because I put in, however many hours, like with plenty of other people, I put in tons of hours in Baldur's Gate 3. So I already kind of knew about D&D a little bit, But even if you don't, that's completely fine. I'm sure the players and the DM as well will be more than happy to help you. So that's really the first step that you want to take is to just reach out and either find a group, or if you already happen to know somebody that has a group, runs a game, whatever, even better because it'll just help you be that much more comfortable. So that's really the first step. Just put into the effort and just find a group or a DM, and then from there you're going to be golden. So this leads into my next point here, my first experience with the game, my first session, where I'm going to compare that to my current experience with the game. So my first session was luckily a lot of fun, if a little bit intimidating. So long story short, in reference to the story, the campaign. So I was essentially joining the party as they were on a quest to deliver a dragon egg, and I didn't really know what to say in terms of my backstory or anything. So my character just kind of showed up, and I was like, "Oh, I was tired of being alone, so I am here." Luckily, I sort of added on to my backstory later, which is a thing you can do, which is awesome, a lot of fun. But yeah, I mean, it was a little intimidating, but I think once it got started, I pretty much immediately got sucked in, and it was so much fun. My first fight was with a Cyclops, and the DM is sort of describing the thing. You hear a foom, 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 and then, look over and there's a Cyclops with a big beehive on a stick or whatever, and it was awesome. I almost got killed my first ever combat because I am a wizard, so I am extremely squishy. Still kind of am. But yeah, I mean, there's really not much else to say about it. My first game was, as I'm sure it will be for a lot of people, maybe you too. It was a little intimidating, but once you sort of get over that hump, it is going to be a lot of fun. I promise you. So don't be scared. You know what I mean? Just go for it. And that sort of leads into my next point, my current experience with the game, sort of compared to this first experience. I am happy to say that it's been pretty much exactly the same. I look forward to it every week. I am very committed. I think I've gone to 22 sessions so far, and pretty much every single time I can't wait. I show up, I get my notebook out, get my dice out, and I am just like so ready to get into it, even if it just ends up being a shopping trip or not much happens, quote unquote. That's fine. I love sort of getting immersed in that world and listening to people's different storytellings and how characters react to things. It's awesome. I am very, very happy that I made the decision to join, and I appreciate the invite as well. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it for part one, guys. We'll move on to part two shortly. So, if you have any interest, please do yourself the favor and reach out, see if you know a DM, see if your friends know a DM. Just Just find a group and then go make the time and go play. If you end up not liking it, that's completely fine too. You gave it a shot, right? Moving on to part 2 here, guys. What do you need for your first session and following sessions? So don't really think too much about this one, is what I've realized. Yes, you could, you know, go all out and say, I'm going to get the Dungeon Master Guide, I'm going to get the Player's Handbook, I'm going to get the Monster Manual. You can do that if you want, but I showed up to my first session with, I actually have some stuff here, because I reached out to my DM and sort of asked them, hey, what do I need? I got lucky with this one. We can kind of see that. There we go. The Book of Holding. So really, you just need, if you want, you just need a notebook that you can take notes in, because it's a very good idea to take notes. Trust me, it's almost like watching Game of Thrones and trying to keep track of all the different names and places and blah, blah, blah. It's an RPG, so you definitely want to be taking notes. So that's really the biggest thing that I would recommend, is absolute bare minimum, a notebook and some pencils or whatever else you want to take notes with. And really, outside of that, you can show up with dice if you want to. I did. I'm a bit of a dice goblin, so I have a case here with a whole bunch of dice. You don't have to do that either. We use the D&D Beyond app, and the awesome thing about that is it can roll your dice for you. Like if I'm casting a 6-level fireball and I need 11 d6s. And maybe at some point I can pull out 11 dice and roll those, but really you can just open the app and then just click the d6 11 times. It does the math for you, especially if you get this and that damage bonus. So really just download the app just to get started, please. Like, you don't have to go crazy and get a bunch of dice. You can do that later if you want, of course, which I did, but you don't need to. So that's really the biggest thing for your first session. Just a notebook and a pencil. You'll be fine. Even if you just want to take notes on your phone, that's fine too. That's really the main takeaway there for your first session. Take notes, especially at your first session, so you can really get used to that foundation. So moving forward, you don't have to, be annoying all the time. Wait, who is that? Wait, what are we doing? And blah, blah, blah. Again, completely up to you. That is just what I would recommend. So for following sessions, it's really the same story. If you're like me and you're a bit of a collector, a bit of a hoarder, yes, you could turn into a dice goblin and, get a whole bunch of dice and collect stuff and get shirts and hats and whatever. You can do that if you want, of course, but really you don't need those things. Especially with the D&D Beyond app. Speaking of, my DM, he owns the Monster Manual, he owns the Dungeon Master's Guide, he owns the Player's Handbook. So if you join the campaign through their invite link, you'll get access to all of those books. So you don't need to be spending, I think like normal price, it's going to be about like, I don't know, $150 for all 3 of those books. Like, come on. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure they're great books, very well illustrated, very helpful. But if you just don't want to spend the money, honestly, just show up with your phone. That's fine. Just please do yourself a favor and take notes. So that's really it for that section, guys. For your first session, just show up with your phone if you want. If you don't want to even buy a notebook and a pencil, that's fine. Just make sure you are taking notes, please. For the player's sake, for your DM's sake, so you don't have to keep asking a million questions, take notes. So that brings us to part 3. How committed am I? Is what you might be thinking to yourself after your first session, second session, third, fourth, whatever. At some point you might be sort of thinking to yourself, I'm not feeling this. And honestly, that's completely fine. The only thing I might argue is if you've only been to one session and you're having these feelings, then maybe you just give it another shot, But if you don't want to give it another shot, obviously that's fine too. But just keep in mind that whatever decision you make is completely okay. Just talk to your DM. I'm sure they would love to hear that you've been having a great time. If you go to that first session and you say, hey, sorry, I wasn't really feeling this, thanks for the invite though, and you never play again, that's completely fine too. Just keep in mind that there's no pressure. If there is pressure, or if your DM is trying to, pressure you into constantly coming to the games, or if they get mad when you say that, you weren't feeling it, but thanks for the invite or whatever, then honestly, it sounds like a bunch of jerks anyway. So just move on. You don't need the negativity. So that's really the overarching theme here, y'all, is that just like D&D itself, whatever decisions you want to make are completely fine. You can do it. You can't do it. You want to do it. You don't want to do it. It's all good. Just follow your feelings. If you want to go to a million sessions and get obsessed and, buy a bunch of dice and a hat and, go crazy with it, that's fine. If you want to go to a million sessions and you only ever show up with your phone, that's fine. If you want to go to one session, you say, oh man, I wasn't really feeling this. Thank you, though. That's fine too. Your feelings are your feelings. Do not let anybody else pressure you into going to sessions or not going to sessions or whatever. It's your life, and whatever you want to do with it is totally fine. So, that wraps up the video for today. Thank you so much for watching. And please do me a favor and just let me know in the comments how I'm doing with this, and just in terms of like quality, things like that. This is really my first official video, so forgive me if it's a little bit messy. I'm just kind of doing this for fun, as I said in my first video. But anyway, guys, I've rambled enough, so thank you so much for watching, and have fun. So that wraps up the video for today, guys. D&D beginner tips and how I got my start. Thank you so much for watching, and as I said before, please, if you have any advice, positive, negative feedback, whatever, please let me know. I am trying to get better with these videos. This is my first one ever, so again, I apologize if it was a little bit messy. I feel like I'm doing okay in regards to, quality and things like that. Obviously, I have progress to make depending on how seriously I want to take this, but I don't want to ramble too much. So again, thank you so much for watching. Have a good weekend. So this leads into